Okay, so just
Is
say
this good? Is a good tone to speak this?
it sounds
this
great.
way? Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It's really, this machine is small, but don't be deceived.
Uh-huh.
The quality sounds like you're on like typical radio level quality. So
Great.
yeah. So let's just mention, because Mr. Lobianco, what a treat! Thank you again for having me in your beautiful home. This is. I would only recommend a larger TV. That's. Well, tell me about that painting behind you, though, first.
Well, both of them, one that's behind you and the one that's behind me.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Is 7 foot by 5 foot,
Jesus.
and we picked them both up at the same time. And of course, we couldn't get them into the elevator, even though we were told we could. So two guys had to carry them up 16 flights.
Hope you're a good tipper.
Please. Yeah. They're great. They're of that period that we have long passed by, and unfortunately, not for the better.
Yeah.
They're like Roman scenes of churches and cathedrals of great artists.
Vaulted ceilings and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like that kind of ornate detail?
Oh, yeah.
It seems like
that's,
it. Yeah.
That's work. That's someone at work, at art. It's not a modern, piece of nothing that goes up, and it's all a part of the plan. It's a funny plan. It caters to weakness and caters to non-talent, basically. The idea of and it's a money thing, you see, because if I could put up a building that is straight and square and make you believe that, see the fine lines in that, isn't that arty and isn't that wonderful? Yeah, meanwhile, it cost about 11 cents to do that, and to do this magnificent work that they used to do when the artists were around cost a fortune. But they're too clever. They've hoodwinked the public, the people of the world, and put up a white painted canvas, put a red dot on it, and said that was art. And can't you, because the lack, you see, it's done because of the lack of ability. And so when people lost their way in terms of their ability to be creative, you then put a red dot on a white paint and you say, now I want you to contemplate what that means. And then you can get into and you can use your brain again and your soul again, and you're searching.
I detect some irony in the way you're speaking. I don't know why.
It's long past.
Yeah.
It's long past.
Well, what do you say?
Idea. Same thing with the arts, all the arts.
What do you say to the notion that buildings nowadays, they claim architects and engineers will claim they're designed to be cheaper to live in because the heating and the windows are larger, or they're built more smart, and that way they cool better, and
it's a wonderful excuse.
More efficient,
well, maybe. Oh, I'm sure it's more efficient, and I'm sure it costs less.
Yeah,
that's my point.
All around, right. Yeah,
that's my point. The point is that it's all about money.
Yeah,
and it just feeds into the narrative about a person's lack of talent.
Yeah,
and we don't have the talent that you see on those walls, in those paintings. We don't have that. We don't have those people who are artists anymore. Look at that, just the frame itself.
The frame is artwork, yeah.
The frame itself is artwork with the painting.
Yeah.
And when you go to Italy, or you go to, we just returned from France, and we went to Notre Dame. 11th century. How can they possibly build that in the 11th century with no tools, no scaffolding, no whatever they had? I mean, and everything is perfect.
Right.
The columns that are made of marble or are just so smooth, and you say, how on earth could they possibly get it like that? With what tools were they using?
Cheap labor.
No, okay, cheap labor, but it was labor. It was people doing it.
Yeah.
And the idea of and it's all about money again. You see, you say cheap labor.
And I do.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I understand.
You're right.
Yeah. And also, there's two other issues around this. And I didn't expect to talk about it, but I'm happy to, because it's important. It's important.
What we're talking about is art.
Yeah,
and what we're talking
how
about is the same thing related to what we do for a living as an actor, as a writer, as a producer, as a what have you. It's all the same.
That's right. I feel like there's definitely a devaluing of art. So, and the constant need to justify its existence now. Whereas, like you bring up, in Europe and other parts of the world, you don't have to. In fact, in Europe, lots of parts of Europe, of course, the government even pays for, or will at least, in part, will underwrite.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not denouncing our country at all. What I'm doing is all the world, including Europe. It all diminishes.
Yeah.
All the new stuff is all diminished because, as you know, we were the leader and are the leader, and it starts here. And unfortunately, it infests the rest of the world. Our commercialism does, and it's like a blob. It just sort of creeps into each person, and then generations to generations, it's lost when a ball rolls down the hill. It picks up all the garbage
on the way
that's happening and ends up right where we are.
Yeah.
You see, I mean, it's wonderful to have internet and who the heck where would anybody be without a cell phone or a GPS to get somewhere? Where would we be? We'd be long lost. But there are dangers that come along with all that stuff. Number one, you get machinery that replaces the human worker.
That's right.
In the shop, you get people invested with their heads only in their phones or their whatever the thing,
right?
And they're not communicating. Oh, they think they're communicating. They're communicating by words on a thing, and no, that's not human communication.
No,
that's just.
Right. I agree with you. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're walking down Central Park West, and you just see people crossing the street now without even looking up.
Absolutely.
So there's a kind of I brought this up in the past, but I a conspiracy theorist might think that these science fiction movies from the past are kind of coming true, and that technology.
It's not
Dave,
what has happened.
I can't do that.
How do you think space got started from writers in the movie business,
right?
And
space travel,
space travel, and
came from the mind of science fiction writers, right?
Yeah, the science fiction writers have made it all happen.
And
in terms of where we're going,
and of course, people like Da Vinci, right? He saw a lot of this. He was, of course, slightly ahead of his time.
Leonardo da Vinci. One of the great artists,
Italian,
Michelangelo, all those great artists.
Yeah.
Da Vinci invented the helicopter.
Yeah,
you
could see the.
There are many things he invented, not only just being a great painter, but he's a great inventor, a great everything.
Right, exactly.
All these guys. You figure, how could they possibly gather in one spot in the Renaissance and all sort of be there when all this was happening?
Do you think they shared these ideas?
I don't know. They probably, I don't know if they hung out or what they did.
The thought that some guy's just sitting there contemplating and comes up with helicopters and makes the schematics and everything.
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it? It's an incredible story.
Remarkable. So
my dad, I just want to say this on the show because you're someone, Tony, that the work you've done, whether it's in the movies or theater, television, I've seen you all my life, and it's always a pleasure. And then also there was this family connection where I remember as a kid growing up here in New York in the 70s, where my dad would talk about your brother. And, my dad, of course, was also a fan of your movies then. And so he was, by the way, very tickled when I also spoke to him about my coming meeting you. But he didn't remember exactly the circumstances. I just remembered it had something vaguely to do with his work in magazine publishing. But you spoke to your brother?
I spoke to my brother today when you told me, and he worked for your dad and moved right up the ladder.
Oh, great.
He was very good, John, my brother John.
Yes.
In creative. And when he came in, he had a nice, simple approach to things. Everybody got very complicated.
Right.
And John would say, well, you just do this.
Yeah.
And they'd say, oh, really? Okay. And then he moved up in that way.
Yeah.
And he was right next to your dad. And I think his next move was to be in your dad's position. And that was the end of my brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because another guy that was my dad at the time, my dad's very close friend, and in fact, my parents moved in, bought a house in Forest Hills back in the end of the 60s because this guy who he worked with said, you really need to get out of that apartment in Rego Park and buy a house. I just did. And so they bought this house and we moved there. It was very little. And that guy would later, he approached my dad because he wanted to grow as well. And it wasn't a big company, but he said, yeah, what do you think if we co-run the art department? What if we, and my dad was like, no, that doesn't sound right to me. He wasn't that dumb, I guess. But anyway, but my parents would sell their house and move into the village. It was like a dream they had, and they moved into they're not there anymore as of recently, but they lived down on 5th and 10th Street for a long time. Nice. So they were also, and we all moved into the city. Anyway. So let's first, I just wanted to touch upon this new project that what you told me about when I ran into you a few weeks ago or months ago, and you were telling me about a short documentary, which I did watch, which was, about...
Just a Common Soldier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start there, because I think that's a really important subject to me, too.
It really
our
is.
Veterans.
It's about...
and PTSD.
It's a tribute to our veterans. The people who protect us, who do everything for us, and we tend to forget the sacrifice that they make. And I did this video. It came to me through my cousin, who gave it to my brother, who gave it to me to see what I could do with it and what I thought of it. And it really touched my heart.
Yeah.
And I had gotten very familiar with the piece, and at friends' houses, I would say, listen to this, and I would read this thing to them and learn it a little more. And then one of my pals, Stephen Klaus, said, we have to get that on tape. Mm-hmm. So we did. And that was 3.5 years ago. And I'm so happy to tell you that at this point, way over 25 million views.
Because it's on YouTube. Is that what
on
you're
YouTube.
Yeah,
it's called Just a Common Soldier.
Check it out.
It's also received 2 Emmys.
Did it play on television then? Is that what?
Excuse me?
It was on television as well?
Oh, but you get it on Google.
Yeah, you can see it online now, but in order to win Emmys, it has to play on television too, right?
Well,
short films do play on television.
I think it played shortly I don't even know.
Anyway, it's fantastic.
But we got 2 Emmys for it. One I received and one received for producing it and for the content. It's something I'm extremely proud of. And when you think of over 25 million, what you're really talking about is about 45 million people having viewed it. Mm-hmm. Because people don't see it alone necessarily. And it doesn't even count when I do it for 800 veterans live.
Oh my gosh!
I show it at a lot of events as well. Doesn't even count as a view. Mm-hmm. You see,
right?
So it's been going on, and when you think of our population of 320 million or something like that, about ages from maybe 21 to 75 might view it, and that's about 80 million people.
Yeah, you can make a case for doing a feature version of this, couldn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, that number, so we're almost halfway there in 3.5 years in terms of having everybody in this country see it. Now, that's amazing. I am stunned by it. And when you think, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it's astounding.
Yeah.
It's astounding. And because it's there forever, And we did it for free, by the way. I mean, my producer invested in putting it on. But we didn't make a dime. It wasn't a question of that. It was a question of just doing a tribute to our veterans.
Right.
So it's called Just a Common Soldier, and you can see it. You Google it on...
just search on YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And
or Google it. It'll come up on as a YouTube thing. So
take a look. It's really I'm really proud of it. In fact, I've done 100 movies, and the thing I'm most proud of is this 5-minute video.
I bet. Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand. Yeah, it has a powerful message.
Yeah.
So check it out. And going back now, what was your fascination with, is a little bit of a change of conversation, but what was your fascination with Fiorello LaGuardia?
Fiorello LaGuardia was the 99th mayor of New York City.
Right.
Now, 1983, Paul Shire, writer, and Patricia De Benedetto Snyder asked me if I would do it for PBS. And I said, well, let me take a look at some of the footage and see if I understand he had a very strange voice and so on and so forth.
Footage of him, because there's some
of LaGuardia, yeah.
Early footage of this.
Yeah, early.
Right.
So I looked, and he had a very high pitched voice, and it's kind of a deliberate delivery.
Was he? Are you saying it was? He already understood how to use communication to connect, like he understood the power
Radio.
of it.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, he had an unusual voice, but a lot of people did back, then for some reason. But he understood the power of communication as a.
I'm sure he did, because he was great on radio.
Right.
And he communicated. He's famous for when there was a newspaper strike, he read the comics to the kids, and everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
And that was in the 40s, early 40s. And what fascinated me about him was he was so ahead of his time and cared so much about the people, and he was a real fighter. This guy went against every odds you could imagine, right from a childhood all the way up. He was his father was in the military. He traveled with him from here to there and all over the place, and ended up in Prescott, Arizona. And so he always had that Arizona kind of a twang to it.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
And he was a short fellow. He was 5'2", which
and you're nowhere near that height.
I couldn't get down to that, but
he was a little bit hefty,
a little
too.
rotund fellow, and I did wear padding to do him. But he fought against Jimmy Walker. He fought against corruption. He fought against Tammany Hall.
Right.
And when he first, he was let's say this in the script. He was a lawyer who hated lawyers, and a politician who couldn't stand politicians.
Yeah.
He was very much the outcast, and very much going through the kind of things that our president is going through right now.
Mm-hmm.
He says when he got finally elected, he said,
"And now I have the proof that my kind of city government is the kind of city government that the people of our city want. Isn't it grand? Not a single solitary politician from either side is in favor of my administration." So the people voted him in.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And he was the mayor of mayors. He was very close to Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. He was able to. He had 6 or 7 secretaries that he kept hopping. He was remarkable. He was a mayor for 12 years.
That's incredible.
Things he accomplished 3 terms. The things he accomplished are unheard of. And if I'm able to still remember them, I'll do them for you. He says, and he talked about Robert Moses. Robert Moses was his builder. He and Robert Moses didn't get along very well because, there were two. They respected each other tremendously, but they were from two different classes.
Yeah.
Moses was a sort of aristocratic, tall gentleman, and LaGuardia.
And he probably didn't like to share power, Moses.
I don't know.
Or he didn't like to have to defer, is my guess,
I don't know.
Given his reputation.
But he said, and thanks to Moses, we've given you 14 public housing developments, 15 outdoor swimming pools, 25 new hospitals, 95 new schools, 340 playgrounds, 360 tennis courts, redoing all of Central Park, putting in a brand new zoo, the Belt Parkway and the Marine Parkway in Brooklyn, the Bronx Whitestone Bridge, the Triborough Bridge, the Reese Park Bridge in Queens, the Queens Midtown Tunnel,
the Lincoln Tunnel, and
all this
let's
under
not
his watch?
forget the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, the Henry Hudson Parkway, the East River Drive, the Grand Central Parkway. He said, why, when all our work is finished, driving your car in New York City will become a pleasure.
You really transformed.
He gets a great laugh. Hi, honey.
Hi. I'll say hello. Let me say hello for sure.
Say hello. Thank you,
Nice to
baby.
meet you. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for allowing me here.
It's podcast.
I do a podcast on. It's a film-related podcast, but I just bring on people that I want to bring on ultimately. As somebody I know about for all my life. So yeah,
Hi, baby.
I have a good-sized listenership.
Yeah, that's. I've been terrible.
No, it's okay.
We're both
a little water.
Water for both. Thank you, honey.
No. We just wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I didn't think about
So,
it. You really transformed there.
yeah.
I really
to
appreciate
me,
it.
that's what it's all about. Transformation.
Now, I'm not going to get in trouble for rights or anything because somebody owns that tech.
Now I wind up writing it. I bought all the rights to it. And now I rewrote a lot of it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I rewrote a lot.
So
of it.
because you can portray him throughout your entire. I mean, no matter what your age,
Yeah.
too, which is
Yeah.
really something. Because
Yeah.
and I'm sitting across from Tony LoBianco. The man looks like he's 60 years old. I mean, if that old, is it your plan to portray him again?
I didn't know I'd go on this long with him, but
Yeah.
I've been rewriting the whole script.
Okay.
And I've written about maybe 75-80% of the whole script. And I keep adding new current events that are similar to what he went through in his time.
I see.
As we know, we don't ever seem to learn anything.
Right.
So we keep making the same mistakes over and over, and we keep addressing the same problems, and that's what I do. That's what keeps me going on the script. And it's humorous, yes, but it's courageous.
Uh-huh.
It's everything I address every subject matter that concerns the human being.
Yeah.
Inflation in the schools and the poverty. Manners, everything you could imagine is dressed to be addressed in this play. And a candidate who ran for mayor, John Katzimatidis, ran for mayor here
Sounds
in
like
New
a
York
Greek.
City. He's Greek, yes, Greek, and a very important fellow.
Mm-hmm.
He ran for mayor just recently. He bought 19 of my shows, came to every one of them, and told the audience, "This is the way I want to be mayor of New York City."
Mm-hmm.
And so that was when we went to the boroughs, and each borough, did the shows here, there, and everywhere.
Right.
So
Do you feel like these issues translate to the broader non-New York audience as well?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have that. We have problems coming out of our tuchus. I tell you.
I don't know that Italian expression.
And so anyway, I tell you, I care. The part of me as an actor is part of me.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is the content. I'm more interested in the message and the content.
Sure.
When I dare say, I'm standing up on stage, you come and watch me. And that's a lot of Caglionis, You think Caglionis are balls.
Yeah, that I
And so, so I want to change, a little Jewish here, a little Italian, just to
Mix it
keep
up.
it balanced.
Sure.
But anyway, the idea of that's why I keep doing LaGuardia, and that's why I keep finding new things and marvelous things that relate to our budget, everything that we have trouble with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the idea that I do it as because I'm an actor is all well and good, but I don't think of myself as an actor in that way.
Your delivery system of sense, in a sense. You know what I mean?
And I care
Yeah.
about what's happening in our country.
Yeah.
I care about what's happening to people, to our mentality, and so on. Look how beautiful my wife is.
She is a beauty.
Isn't she a beauty?
Wow. Yes.
Hello, beautiful.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate
Look
it.
at that.
She's very beautiful.
Come here, honey. Show me your nails.
But don't
No. She just had
a
her
hand
nails
model.
done.
Oh, I see. Very
And
good.
and I criticized
Mani
them.
Petty. Just make sure it's non-alcoholic. Have you ever considered? I don't want to get into the politics in the sense, but I'm just curious because you're so.
Had I been younger, I'd have run.
You would have.
Yeah, I was interested in. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in simplifying and
I understand.
and bringing together.
Right.
You know.
But there it is. Then no wonder LaGuardia is such a, such an important guy, and never leaves your realm.
You see, the idea of
and he's
him,
an Italian American.
You know, when he ran for Congress, 136 years were dominated by the Democrats and Tammany Hall in New York City.
Yeah.
And he couldn't win. Nobody could win. You see, there was
they
no
were locked.
sense of
It was
anybody
locked
running.
in. Yeah, right.
You see, so he decided to run.
Yeah.
And he communicated with the people. He did his pro bono work as a lawyer. He went to the neighborhoods. He borrowed a car. He went all over the place. He spoke 8 languages.
Well, that's incredible. Brilliant guy.
Remarkably brilliant. And he lost by, what was it, 1,600 votes. Now, never had they, that was the first time. Second time he won. It's the
Congress.
first time out. He lost, and then the
Congress
second time
or
out.
mayoral?
Congressman.
Okay.
Congressman. Then he won for mayor later on,
Yeah.
1934.
Okay.
But because Jimmy Walker, he ran for mayor against Jimmy Walker and lost. And then Jimmy Walker was a crook.
Sure.
And they found him out, and they got rid of him, and LaGuardia ran and won in 1934. And then the city turned honest. I mean, he broke all the mobsters and the bootleggers and what have you. I mean, he went after everybody. And it was fantastic. And he cleaned up the city totally.
Sounds like he had a good security detail too.
Okay. Anyway, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But
it's a good story. It's a great story.
Yeah.
What a fascinating character. I mean, certainly for not only yourself, but for just people in general, because they keep bringing back LaGuardia as like a character. I mean, they made a musical. Fiorello is a musical, right? And not only,
you see, that musical only took up. He was even mayor,
right?
Only to him being a congressman, winning
amazing.
once, and that was it.
The
I didn't
know
stuff that he really did was mayor.
Yeah, it's an incredible story.
Yeah.
I want to read that the Robert Moses book. I'm just waiting to retire because it's such a
the Power Broker.
The Power Broker.
Yeah.
It sits on my shelf. Like
I know.
I have a first edition hardbound copy, and it sits there waiting for me, like beckoning to. But
Yeah. But let me. I'm sure. Being an actor, you want to know about how I got started and all that jazz,
too.
And
Sure.
and so forth. And
Sure.
I'll do quickly if I can, possibly because I tend to go on.
Well, I went back and I did take notes. It sounds like you already have some ideas of things to talk about, which is fantastic. I did catch up with a couple of films I hadn't seen, and I because I think people listening would love to hear. And also, I did grow up with your movie, so I am curious.
She's up there. The cat is, I think, 16 years old. She's a beauty. She's a baby, a real sweetheart. That baby, she's amazing. She's very cuddly, but she don't like to be touched that much.
I understand.
I don't understand. I mean, she can touch her on here, but when you go to her back or pet her, she seems to back off and
right.
Makes
sense.
Yeah. Hey, the baby.
Yeah, I tend to let animals make the move.
Exactly.
Make the first move.
Yeah.
I love animals.
She did good. Anyway, it all happened in high school. I happened to be very fortunate. I went to a vocational high school in Brooklyn.
You grew up in Brooklyn.
E. Grady Vocational High School.
Where were you growing up first? I'm just curious, because I know you
I
grew
moved
up.
so much.
Okay.
I grew up, I was born on 39th Street and 3rd Avenue, moved from there to 56th Street and 5th Avenue, then to 49th Street and 8th
Bay Ridge
Avenue.
up to Sunset Park, that area?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And then 18th Avenue, 49th Street in a Jewish-Italian neighborhood, basically. And, well, I went to this high school that was a block away from my house. I had no guidance of where to go. And I was not a very good student, to say the least. I just didn't learn much. I didn't learn academically. Because I kept thinking, why? I kept thinking, why? Why is this? Why is that? By the time I got finished with the whys, I still didn't get the answers. But I knew a lot about people somehow. Maybe because my my mother and father, and their mother and father talked about the past so much and how struggling they had it. My mother, both my mother and father, both were taken out of grammar school to work.
Yeah.
So they could support the family. She was sewing coats at Howard Clothing and hidden from the inspectors when they came around, and all the other stuff about her.
Here,
all that stuff stayed with me. You see, yeah. and it that's where their life was my life.
Sure.
And so I grew up with all of their past in mind. But anyway, Jack, I said I'm going to be brief.
Okay.
Let me go back. Let me go ahead here. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to go to the school where they had a speech and drama teacher, Miss Patricia Jacobson. I couldn't believe that at school with teaching mechanics and sheet metal work and whatever the heck else and so on. They had a speech and drama teacher who was about 27. And she liked me, and she would cut me out of other classes to be in her class. And she would talk to me and correct me as I went along. And, with my speech, I'd be talking to her, and she'd say, "What do you mean, with?" I don't know. The with? What's with?
Right.
Where's the TH?
Yeah.
It's a with. And so I would be conscious of it, and I would speak better.
So your ego wasn't getting in the way even.
No, I don't have an ego. I love criticism.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love criticism because criticism is instructive. And you only can learn from criticism unless you're perfect. And if you're perfect, then you could resent it, and you would be probably stupid because nobody's perfect. So the idea of a critique and getting better, and that's the way when I'm directing, that's what I do. I let the actor and the actors be so creative, and so on. And I'm not interested in their layer of what they got. I'm interested underneath. I'm interested in what they dream at night in terms of what they dream of as their career, as their life, and what they bring to the world, what they bring to this part and this character.
Yeah.
I have many dimensions in a human being, and I want to see them when I'm directing, and I want to see them when I'm acting. You see, but. So I'm very demanding, but I'm helpful. The actors I work with, I've never seen that kind of thing before. They never see that director who wants them to be great and encourages them to be great, and they are when they get through. When I get through with them. Anyway,
you mold them like Miss Jacobson molded you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
She molded me. Anyway, a contest came around, a declamation contest, and she thought I should enter it. And I said, "Enter it? What do you mean? I can't even speak." She said, "No, you enter this contest." And so I just so happened, the world and the business, especially this business, is all miracles. And then I went back home, and my aunt's sister was in the room. I told her about this declamation contest. She happened to have a poem called "Soldier," about a soldier in a foxhole dying and then finally seeing God that he didn't believe in. So it's quite a dramatic little piece. So I took that in. I learned it, did it, won. I won for the class. I won for my school. And then I competed. I was representing my school in all of the district. I won. I won in the district.
Amazing.
Here I was representing Brooklyn in the city finals. I mean, I was as stunned as she was.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine her?
Yeah.
The look on her face was, I'll never forget it. The look on her face was absolutely so loving, so
proud,
so stunning.
And yet, so surprised that you, and surprised by her own.
Well, surprised at
being able to have discovered something.
Yeah. So
in you.
now, so anyway, it's a beautiful story.
It is.
After I graduate, what am I going to do? I had a tryout with the Brooklyn Dodger rookies in Ebbets Field.
Okay, you buried the lead. That's an important part.
Yes, I could have. I could have. If I had anything, I would play. I'd be a baseball player.
Yeah.
I was the all-star first baseman of all of high school.
Jeez.
of my year.
Right.
I
Makes
was
sense.
on a
Also, you would have been
journal.
born you would have been coming up into an age in the heyday of the Dodgers. My God. Right?
And I boxed in the gloves, the golden gloves, and in club fighting. I did all this physical activity, and thank God I was not good enough to be a boxer, and not, unfortunately not good enough or fast enough or whatever to be a professional baseball player. That I would have loved to do, and I always watch. I watch a game just like I watch a movie, always as either the director or producer, and I watch it as a manager and an owner, the baseball game, So So I guess I'm a natural director. Yes.
Yeah, I can see
I
it.
see that because I'm always seeing everything. I'm seeing people, and that's what I teach when I'm teaching acting. You got to be able to see everything that's going on. I mean, and that's not just a lamp. It's not just a tree that you pass. It's a particular kind of tree. It has a life of its own. Everything is different. Everything is special. So you got to be vivid and exciting about life, and vibrant about life, and vibrant about everything. If you're creative. If you're a creative person. Otherwise, you just go along and blob it. You're just a blob.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then I got out of there and went to acting school. And that was a whole wonderful thing. I had good leadership. I was the president of my class. I ran for president of the school, all that jazz. And
was this still the vocational school? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
the vocational school. Yeah, but then I left there when I graduated. I went to acting school, and again when I went there, I was accepted. And
which one?
They had the dramatic workshop.
Okay,
it was the dramatic workshop was on 50th Street and Broadway. Capitol Theater was right there. It's right across from the Winter Garden.
Yeah, sure, I know where it is.
Right, that's where it used to be.
The heart of Times, the Broadway district.
Everything is gone. Yeah,
right.
So stayed there, but I said, you have a theater in here. Why don't we put plays on? He said, "Oh, okay." So I put the plays on. I mopped the stage. I did 2 one-act plays. I did Mooney's Kid Don't Cry, which is a Tennessee Williams sort of a stevedore guy. And then I did George Bernard Shaw's Overruled, Tuxedo Tales, and so with English accent, all of 19.
Did Mrs. Jacobson come
Miss
in
Jacobson,
see your...
no, this was now.
I know, but I thought maybe she kept in touch because she started you off in this.
I'm going to tell you a great story about that.
Okay.
Years later, 60 years later.
60?
60 years later. I'm at a wedding, and a woman says, "Oh, I know who you are." And I said, I figure, well, she knew me as an actor. I don't know. She said, I replaced your principal. I think it can't be my principal because my principal's got to be 100 years old.
Right.
I said, "Miss Jacobson?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Really?" Yes. Is she still alive? I said, "Yes." I said, "Where does she live?" She says, "In Florida." I said, "Would you please get me her telephone number?" She did. I called her. There she was, 86 years old. Tony. Just like she remembered everything about me.
Wow.
Remembered everything about me, the way I walked, she said, the way you strutted, and so on. And behavior. She said, I've been watching you, obviously, throughout my career. And so what I did was, I said, I'm going to do my play, and I want you to come. I want you to come. I'll do it in Florida, so you can come. So we did it in Florida, in Naples, Florida, and I had her with a friend drive in, put her up a nice hotel, and had her come see the show.
Wow.
60 years
You
later.
were reunited with her.
Her
You must
creation.
have felt like
Can
you
you
were that
imagine?
16-year-old boy again. I mean,
I
come
had
on.
her sitting right there.
Yeah.
And
Did
I'm
you-
doing the show, 60 years later, and that face is still there, that beaming face. She wrote me a letter. Best weekend of her life.
Sure.
She wrote it. I mean, fantastic. Just touches your heart.
Sure. It's
I'll give you
incredible.
another fantastic story. When I had that Dodger tryout, Al Campanis, is that name familiar?
Sounds familiar,
Al
yeah.
Campanis was a scout
Okay.
then. And he said to us, and as we were in the dugout, nobody walks on this field. When your foot touches Dodger dirt, you run. I remember that. remember that real clear. I was so excited that when my foot touched Dodger dirt, I got a nosebleed. And I couldn't stop my nose from bleeding.
Just started bleeding?
It
just
started
spontaneously?
from being excited and so on. And there I was in Ebbets Field, looking up, trying to get my nose to stop bleeding, bleeding all over my glove, all over my uniform. I'm on the grass. I'm looking at the billboards. I'm in Ebbets Field, folks. And by the time I got everything under control, everything was assigned. That was a disaster. Years later, I'm very good friends with Tommy Lasorda.
Oh, yeah?
The manager of the Dodgers.
Of course.
And Al Campanis is now the general manager of the Dodgers in L.A.
Right.
Okay? And guess what? I'm sitting in the booth with him, just him and I, sitting in the booth with Al Campanis, the scout, way back when I was a kid, 17.
When was this now, though?
Now, this was, I had to be 50-something.
Okay.
50.
Yeah.
Maybe 45, maybe 45. But anyway, so now we're watching Doc Gooden pitch against Sid. I think it was Sid Fernandez or Valenzuela, one of the two. I think it was Valenzuela. And the Dodgers get a runner on first base, and Doc Gooden goes into his windup, and I said, "Wait a minute, you can steal on this guy." To Al, he says he comes set up here. Mm-hmm. He comes set over his head.
Right.
And then he's got to come here and do this.
Is that meaning that he's signaling, and it's obvious like you have time to steal? Does that mean like people know?
No. That's the pitcher.
Right.
The pitcher, Doc Gooden, is before he delivers the pitch.
I understand. Right.
He comes set to at the top of his thing. When you're supposed to come set when a runner's on first base, here down by your waist. And then you do a slide step so the runner doesn't get a chance to take off.
I see.
But up here, over your head, you come set, and then you got to come down. And as soon as you come down, he's gone. And so, and this is professional ball.
Right.
I know a great deal about professional ball. I mean, I am a manager beyond belief. I call shots before they happen. All the time.
It's an instinct.
You know?
I understand. Yeah.
So, as a result, he picks up the phone, calls down to the dugout, and tells Tommy, "Hey, you can steal on this guy." And boom, puts the phone. The guy steals on the base. Mm-hmm. Now think about that. Think about that circle.
Yeah, right.
A kid.
Yeah. Now you're calling the shots.
And here I am telling that many years later.
Yeah.
And of course, Gooden finally had to change his windup. He couldn't come set it.
Understood.
So,
sure.
But it's a miraculous. I mean, I'm way off acting.
No.
But it's
I appreciate
the great
there's a connection.
Stories. Yeah,
and I see the connect. No, but and I want you to be able to feel free to kind of.
Yeah. But anyway, the one of the first movies I ever did was The Honeymoon Killers.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Which is a real cult classic and one of my favorites of all time. Those women in that movie are fabulous. And then right after following that was The French Connection. And you talk about craziness.
And by the way, I just want to tell you, William Friedkin did this podcast.
He did a podcast, did he?
Yeah, years ago. But yes, early on.
Friedkin, yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. Sorry
that's
to interrupt
great. So he and Phil D'Antoni, the producer,
who also
Billy
directed
Philip Friedkin was the director. You were talking about
D'Antoni,
Honeymoon Killers. Oh, the French Connection. Billy Friedkin did the French Connection.
I know, and then Philip D'Antoni also directed you in
Seven
Ups, the only film he ever directed. I think he just wanted to work with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I tell you why he stopped. He got out of the business right after that. They would not. This is Phil D'Antoni, the producer of Bullet, French Connection, and 7 Ups, all with the great car chases, and quite successful, obviously. And then he wanted to do a movie. And the studio wouldn't give him the money to do the movie. He got so upset he quit the business.
It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? After those 3 movie successes,
that he
couldn't
write his own. You
would think.
Right.
Remarkable how this business works.
Must have been something else going on.
Yeah,
Must have been.
So the funny thing is also that how lucky one has to be in this business. Forget about talent. That's a given, hopefully. When they saw the Honeymoon Killers together, Billy Friedkin and Phil D'Antoni, one of them said, "Let's get him for Sal Boca in The French Connection." The other guy said, "No, he's got a Spanish accent. He's from Spain." And the casting guy behind me said, "No, he's in New York. He doesn't have an accent."
Mm. I see. Interesting. That's right. You were so good in
Well,
Honeymoon Killers. They thought you were a Spanish
well-
because you played a Latin lover.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
you were this sort of
exactly Latin killer lover.
Yeah.
Good movie.
You were so good at-
You should see this
It-
movie.
I know.
1968.
Which one?
Honeymoon
Oh,
Killers.
the Honeymoon. Yeah,
The
but
French
if you.
Connection is great. I mean, it's won 5 Academy Awards. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
Gene
one of the-
Hackman was fantastic.
It's one of the all-time.
And to
classics.
give you an idea how crazy things are, they didn't want Gene Hackman.
Right.
They wanted 4 or 5 other actors.
Yep, I
Before
know.
they didn't even want the guy who played the Frenchman. They could,
Oh, that was an error.
that was another error.
That was an error in
Yeah,
casting. They thought they were casting.
the other guy that played.
They Jose. I forget the story, but they were. The casting said, "Bring in this guy," and he said the wrong name.
They got the-
and
yeah.
they brought him in,
Yeah.
and they said, "You asked for him. You asked for."
Yeah.
Now I'm going to blank.
What's his name? I forget.
Ferrer?
The guy.
No.
You know, everybody's dead except Gene and me. Hackman. Gene's retired, and I'm.
He's got to
On
have
my
quite a
way.
few years than you, though.
Oh, he
Hackman's
was-
got to be pushing 90 now.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is,
think
actually. I was the first person to talk to him when I saw the screening, which he didn't see. He was in California. I was in New York, and I called him. And I said, Gene, you're going to win the Academy Award.
Fernando
Ray
Rey.
Fernandez.
Ray- no,
Fernando Ray.
Fernando Rey. I don't know how I forgot for a second because
Fernando Rey.
it's one
exactly.
of
Fernando Ray.
my. Yeah.
Anyway,
he played the
so
Frenchman.
those 2 movies, and then we did I mean, there's so much.
But you said there was craziness. You mentioned craziness on French Connection. You
Did
said,
I?
thought you
I
did.
didn't. I
And
didn't.
I interrupted you.
No, craziness about getting jobs.
I see.
How things work.
But did you were so here's a question I have because you go from that kind of sealed your fate in a way, getting that role in the French Connection because you're forever going to be associated with the Italian American, which at that time was blew up like all of a sudden.
Yeah, with Godfather.
The New York,
and,
the New York and Serpico and Pacino and De Niro, all those guys, you were one of them.
Right.
And you were always then closely associated with playing these character
Gangsters,
roles
yeah.
of gangsters or of cops.
Cops.
Whether
yeah.
because I'm also meaning TV. But
Absolutely. Cops and gangsters. I did a couple of lawyers here and there, but in television.
Right. Yeah.
I did a rodeo rider. Did a
Oh,
cowboy,
really?
which I loved.
But did
called
you-
Goldenrod?
Yeah.
That was good.
Was that okay with you though, or did you feel frustrated by this? Did you feel like you were being in a way hemmed into something that
I will
you
show
wanted to...
you a book that you will say this can't possibly be true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a book of different characters I portray
Okay.
at different times of my age, because I like to do what one thinks I can't. I'm only interested in feats. I really am. I'm only
F-E-E-T.
interested in what's impossible.
F-E-A-T rather. Yeah.
You know, just like doing LaGuardia is a feat. It's an hour and a half
Sure.
of memorization, and at my age, it's a feat. It's at any age it's a feat, but at my age it's a bigger feat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it I mean, it's got, for me to get really interested in something, it's got to be challenging as hell.
Right.
I'm not looking to relax, because challenge is the only place I really like to go. When it's difficult to overcome and to do. That's what I want to do.
Sure.
Because that makes me better.
Right.
Because then I accomplish something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, otherwise.
Well, you sort of
I'm not interested in just going along to get along in terms of
Right.
just, you're done. I'm not an actor that just plays myself.
that accompanies the thing you said earlier very well. It accompanies this other idea of liking criticism because that also makes you less complacent, less
I gotta
lazy.
fix it. I gotta fix it. It's
Gotta
always to
improve,
be fixed.
Improve, work.
It's life.
Push yourself. Yeah.
You understand? Life
Yeah.
is about fixing it. If you don't make the same mistake again,
Mm-hmm.
is to understand that you could be better.
Yeah, and there's a world of new mistakes you can make.
There's what?
There's an entire world of new mistakes that you can make.
That's right.
Instead of this one you already
out
made.
there. It's all out there to keep fixing.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm the kind of a guy, if I trip in a hole, or bang my head, I am so angry at me. I should have seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I should have not. Why would I bang my head? How could I not be aware of that? Mm-hmm. So I'm always the biggest critic is on me. I'm the biggest critic of me.
Right.
You know.
And
I also had two wonderful brothers. One passed away, unfortunately, and my other brother John is still around, and they've seen everything I've done. John saw the View from the Bridge on Broadway.
Oh, right, of course.
That was a fantastic. That's the moment of my life. He saw it 30 times. He kept bringing customers.
Now, who was played opposite you in that? That's a famous production, by the way.
Rose Gregorio, Jimmy Hayden.
That's a very famous, for those listening, very famous production.
Why it's so famous?
Broadway.
I got nominated for a Tony Award. Why it's so famous also is I'm the first actor ever to have played that as a full-length play on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
That's historic. You know, that's historic. That's a cult, Arthur Miller cult classic.
Yeah.
So, and that play, give you an idea of, again, the miracles. I'm in acting school, that first acting school, because I went to another one after that.
Oh, yeah, Triangle?
Triangle Theater I started.
You started that one. That's right. You found it and you were the artistic director.
Right,
that's right, yes.
Right.
Okay. I'm jumping in.
It was ART, the other acting school, Actors Repertory Theater. That was the second one I went to. When the first acting school, Arthur Miller comes to our school, and he talks to us.
Yeah.
And I'm just a kid, 18 years old, just turning 18. And he brings a scene from A View from the Bridge. And these two kids play the scene. And I said, one day I'm going to do that on Broadway. And 20 years later, I do it on Broadway with Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
And the two of us are looking up at the marquee with both our names over the title. And I say to him, look at that. That's not bad for two kids from Brooklyn, huh?
Did he remember you?
No.
Yeah,
it was a big class. But, it's funny. When they did the off-Broadway production with Robert Duvall before.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. I went to see Miller, and I had done the show in summer stock. Mm-hmm. This was a number of years ago, the 60s. I think it was 1960-something. I don't know what the heck it was. Something like that. And I said to him, okay, I want to play Eddie. He said, no, you're too young for Eddie. I said, no, I'm not too young for Eddie. I said, I can do Eddie. He said, now, why don't you play Marco? I said, I want to play Marco. I want to play Eddie. And that was the end of that. That's the last time I'd spoken to him.
Oh.
Way back in the 1960s, something like that. And they did it off-Broadway. It was originally a one-act play.
I see.
Along with The Memory of Two Mondays. Another play he wrote quickly, but very good. In fact, I got to do A Memory of Two Mondays on television. Probably the only time that play will ever be done. Mm-hmm. It was on television. I got to do that play on television. Now, Van Heflin played Eddie in the one-act play. Mm-hmm. Van Heflin, very good actor, but I think probably not correct for that role, but very good actor. Mm-hmm. And J. Carrol Naish. I don't know if you remember. That's a name. That's a name that much older listeners will remember. And he played. He played. What the heck is his name? The other part. I forget.
In the Marco part.
In View from the Bridge.
Okay.
From the Bridge. Anyway, I'm getting way off course here.
No, these are great stories actually. And I was just going to say Rebecca, his daughter Rebecca, Arthur Miller's daughter.
Married to the great actor.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah. What an actor he is.
Yeah, he's one of the great.
He is one of the great actors. And this man...
Quote, unquote, retired.
Huh?
He's
That's what I hear.
I don't know. Jury's out.
He's remarkable.
She did my podcast, too. I just wanted to mention
Did she?
Yeah. But I'll tell you, I was not far from here. No, I was. I was on the east side. We're on the west side right now. Just let me know how many more minutes we have.
5 minutes to 5.
Okay, I'm going to be tossed out of here on my ear.
Hey, honey.
We might have to do a part 2.
What time we do over there? What time we need to get dressed?
At 5:30. You need to leave at...
What, honey?
You need to leave at 6. You need to start getting ready at 5:30.
Okay.
So we have a little bit more time. That's nice. I don't want you to feel rushed. We could always do a part 2.
Hear me? I can talk forever. I'm terrible.
Perfect. No. This is the perfect perfect guest is somebody who does.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are great anecdotes, so it's fantastic. What I was going to say was
and honey, excuse me, babe. Can you get me that book, my picture book? You know where it is? It's in that drawer that you keep your
The lovely
stuff
Miss-
in, and the pictures. Well, I keep the pictures. So after those, one of the other movies that always intrigued me was Blood Brothers with Richard Gere, Paul Sorvino. That was a movie. Richard Price, who wrote it,
oh, right.
who wrote the book,
Yeah.
lived in the same building as I did on West End Avenue and 77th Street. And we had a doorman named Jimmy who was very up on the theater and the movies and so on. And he said, you think Tony would read my book? When
Richard
I
said
finished
this
it?" To the
said
doorman.
this to the doorman.
I said, sure we would. So now comes the script. And I get a call to go read Robert Mullet. Mullet, the director.
Okay.
And I get the script. I read the script. It's perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I go meet with Robert Mueller. And I sit down with him. And I talk to him about the movie and the part for like 3 hours. And after he says, well, you're it. I think I'm the first actor he saw because Richard said, I want him. So he said, who do you want? Who do you want for your brother? Who do you want for your son? Who do you want?
He asked you that. Wow.
Well, amazing.
Yeah.
So he said, and then he said, well, what about Paul Sorvino? I said, fine. And then he said, as far as the boy is concerned, I'm working with a kid. He said, I'm going to work with him and so on. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So now we start rehearsing, and all of a sudden he comes to me and he says, that kid's not going to work out. And I said, oh, let me call my agent. So I called my agent, Ed L'Amato, and I said, I need a kid to play that part. He says, what about Richard Gere? I said, send him over. I'll do the screen test with him. Send him over. There you go, baby. He sends him over. I do the screen test with him. And it's great. It's just great. And I call Mulligan says, hey, how about the kid? I said, good. So I call Ed L'Amato. I said, good, he's going to be great, and this is the kind of money you can get for him. So I've practically negotiated
that for Richard
this contract, too.
So this had to be, I guess, in like early 80s or late 70s? When was Blood Brothers? What year was that?
Oh, 80-something. 80, I don't know. Honey, you have any idea when Blood Brothers? I'm terrible
That's
with
all right.
years. I think it's 85, 86, something like I don't know.
Because Gere was already...
No, Gere had not done anything. Gere had done one movie that wasn't out. He did a summer movie that he hadn't even finished. He did Blood Brothers.
I think it's a little earlier is my point, because
No.
Gere was already looking for Mr. Goodbar, and he did that,
I think
that was earlier.
right around.
That was earlier than the 80s. I think that was the late 70s. He was just hitting right around then.
Are you looking for that? Looking at? Of course she is. She's amazing.
She is.
See that cat? That cat loves her.
Oh my God!
Beyond.
Look at that.
She just. She always lies. As soon as she lies, that's her spot.
love
She
cat.
comes on and she lies right on her.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet. It's very sweet. I think cats are fantastic.
Yeah. So anyway, that movie was a great situation. Loved doing that movie. Loved that part, and it was so interesting. It's a rough movie. It's a tough movie. Steve Ador's electrical workers on construction and all that jazz, and I'm quite powerful in the picture in terms of the character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really after him to join the union and become one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to work with kids and sort of. So now, when the movie comes out, people talk about how tough and rough it is and blah blah blah. However, when it came out as a television thing, they changed the title to A Father's Love,
That I remember.
which is remarkable. A Father's Love. 78.
See?
See how 1978. You see how bad I am? I'm terrible
Well,
with
it's a long
with
time.
years.
It's a long time. But when you say Richard Gere, I know that he's, doing Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and then he did, what's the one
78.
with American Gigolo for Paul Schrader, who I brought on I did this podcast too, Paul Schrader. So I've had a lot of, you know,
78,
real,
wow.
real great. Yeah, yeah. So you know,
Amazing.
because Richard Gere was known in New York City for having done already Bent on Broadway. Remember that?
No,
Bent?
I saw that. Yeah.
So
no, did he do that before? I think
that would be before. I'm guessing.
You think?
Well, roughly around the same
Because
time.
I went to see it because of him, and
Maybe
I
around
didn't,
the-
I
okay,
wouldn't-
that
I
makes
wouldn't
sense.
know
Then.
him.
Maybe it was a little later. Then maybe
Yeah,
it was right
I think
after.
It was. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
the excitement of this business and the challenges it offers, and I guess keeps going back to that, makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, as they say in this business, you don't get paid for working, you get paid for waiting.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there
yeah.
are periods of time in between.
Oh
maybe
yeah,
and such.
yeah. Or even on the set.
Right. Sure.
Even on
yeah.
the set, you're waiting all the time. You know, it's waiting.
Yeah, that's why actors, people don't understand, it's not a luxury to get a trailer. It's necessary because you spend so much of the time during the production sitting around, and you know it's difficult. It can be difficult. So to prepare and to get into, keep your head and your you know, sort of frame of mind where, you know, it's good to have the privacy and to get to have the quiet.
You know, and
No
working
doubt.
with great actors. I work with Burt Lancaster on a Marco Polo.
Was that
with Tony Honey
I want to help you.
Nixon.
Oh, right. Of course, you did Nixon for Oliver Stone. Is it?
Yeah,
and
right,
and
right.
where you played? Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. Right, you played. Oh, there it is. Hold on,
Johnny Roselli.
Johnny Roselli.
But
Exactly.
Tony Hopkins, Gene Hackman, of course, Roy Scheider,
What about you? Were but
which was what?
Nixon.
Nixon, 95.
sure. Yeah,
There she is
I remember
on-
that. I remember you in that very well. But you, after French Connection 7 Ups, you're now a lead. They're giving you leads, right?
Yeah.
So, do you have any memories of God Told Me To? Because that's kind of like a weird film in the
That's
sense that.
a classic too. It's become a cult classic.
Right.
It's a weird movie.
Because it's interesting. Probably like movies like that, which was kind of tone and genre-wise, people didn't probably know
Larry
how.
Cohen, yeah.
Larry Cohen. Any memories of him?
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
quite a character, right?
And you know,
And it was produced by American International, so I was wondering if Roger Corman ever showed up, or wasn't he?
No, he wasn't involved in that. He wasn't involved in that
Okay.
that I know of. I mean,
Yeah.
not when I was there. That movie I shot while I was doing a play. I was in a play called Yanks 3,
Oh, right.
Detroit, nothing, top of the 7th. And I did that play at night, and I did the movie in the daytime.
Yeah.
And maybe on my day off we did night shooting if we had any, and then we didn't work on Wednesdays, or I didn't work on Wednesdays. He shot something else because I had a matinee. But I was doing two things at once. Listen, there was a time talking about two things at once. I love being a softball player. I'm probably the only player in the Broadway show league that's won the MVP 3 times, and because I won 8 championships in
probably
16 years.
It's probably the thing you're most proud of of all the awards.
Right, softball. That's right. And what I was doing is pitching underhand softball in the daytime and throwing Yankee baseballs on stage at night. You know,
Could you?
with the other hand?
Oh, right.
know
Because
what
you
I
were
mean?
playing a lefty.
I was playing.
Or are you a lefty?
I'm lefty.
Oh, you are.
And
Okay.
when I went on stage, when I got that part,
Who were you playing in that?
no, it was
was a fictional
but
character?
you know, and he wasn't around there, but I used number 49, Louisiana Lightning, Ron Guidry.
Okay.
That was wound up his number later on, but he wasn't around then, and I just chose the number. Anyway, so the director who was Hal Prince.
Oh,
Yeah, and
my goodness.
I get on stage and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're left-handed."
You're a southpaw.
I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you got your back to the audience." I said, "Oh, well, I'll go to the other side of the stage, pitch from there." He said, "That's the weakest side of the stage."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll throw right-handed." He said, "You can pitch with both hands?" I said, "Yeah, I could do that." That's difficult.
Right. There's another one of your challenges you
That's
set up
right.
for yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. And I'd warm up before the show every night like a real pitcher. Downstairs with my catcher, and I'd warm up and throw the ball and so on. And
That's right. Yeah.
And so when Steve Garvey, who was the Dodger first baseman, came to see the show, he said, "I've never seen an actor portray a baseball player more authentically than you." And I said, "Yeah, and I'm doing it with the opposite hand." He said, "What?"
Well,
but that was fun. That I loved doing that. That was practically a monologue, somewhat. There were other actors in it, but the whole thing was this guy's fantasy and this guy talking to himself, talking to his spirit, talking to Phil Rizzuto in the booth, talking. It was practically a monologue.
and we're going to wind down in moments, I know. But it seems like that play seems like had a lot of, you had Hal Prince, who's like...
Yeah, but he got let go.
Oh, during the production? Really?
I'm sorry, no, excuse me, I shouldn't say it. He and the producers, again,
fell out?
Ran into fallout, and he never started. They brought in Alan Arkin.
Oh, okay, well, that's...
So Alan Arkin directed.
That's not bad.
He spent most of the time on the other play. It was 2-1 actors, because I was pretty much alone, and the cast had a lot of people in it. So he spent a lot of time over there. But that's a fabulous memory for me, and I loved every minute of it. So... listen, we should wrap up because I want to show you some other things.
Sure, yeah, this has been great. So maybe we can do a part 2 sometime down the road. When on a slow afternoon.
A couple of questions.
No, it's okay. They're just talking points, but
No, go ahead. We have the time. I just want to.
I want to see that more than this even. No, the only I just wrote down some of the films and people that you were involved with, and I just thought, but I really got to most everything. I mean, I was going to mention. Speaking of Burt, working on City Heat, and
with Burt
and Richard Benjamin at the helm, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
It
was just wonderful, and again, this is getting crazy. This is 3 stories in a row. Now, the first director was supposed to be Julie Andrews' husband.
Oh, sure,
Blake Edwards. And
he's going to direct those guys?
He hired me, he hired me to direct them. And then he had a falling out with the producers, and they hired Richard Benjamin to be the director. I mean, this is 3. This is funny. Anyway...
was there any oxygen left, though, on the set for you after those 2 guys?
Sure. We had a good, whatever...
they were such
fun. Did you see the film?
City Heat. I saw it so long ago. I have very vague memories of it. But they were both at the. I mean, I guess Burt Reynolds was really more at the height of his career then. Clint managed to have the height go on for decades,
including this last movie, The Mule.
Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, marvelous.
Is it good?
Wonderful. Yeah, he's wonderful. He's wonderful. What an amazing story he is.
Sure.
When you think of what. They considered him the TV.
That's right.
TV,
when
handsome, tall, sort of a joke.
They call them just good-looking guy and looks good in a cowboy outfit, But it turns out to be.
And then he did all those films and learned from Sergio Leone
in
Italy, and comes back and he's this fantastic director, actor, director, producer, you name it. He's it. Yeah. Right.
Well, are you currently you talk about the LaGuardia project as something that's ongoing.
I wrote a movie script, which I've got to get produced, and it's about my life growing up as a kid, and a lot of these stories of growing up, in high school, I'm just a senior in high school. So it's about my teacher,
Ms. Jacobson.
Yeah, about my teacher, Patricia Jacobson, and how she's responsible basically for me going the right way rather than the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of family life, a lot of education going on back and forth. It's a real come-of-age movie, and it's a movie that's got to be done. But again, it's 1954, and people don't know. They don't know what was going on then. They don't understand the language. They don't understand the behavior. They don't. So it's very difficult to communicate with a studio who gives the script to read
Kids.
a 20-year-old,
Right.
or 10, whatever
Yes,
it is, a 30
yes.
or 40-year-old
Right.
who don't know anything, and about what the message is or what it's about. I mean, I gave it to somebody, a studio, and they didn't know anything. Then when I explained it to them, they got all excited. They said, "Really? Oh, that's what happened? Is that what it's all in there? It's all there." But they can't relate to it, you know.
Yeah, it's much harder to convey that and
Yeah,
to understand like what the world was like in that time,
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
right? Where
Exactly.
what their parents grew up.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know.
That's right.
They should care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, this has been just like the most exciting thing, and I appreciate you making it happen. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for both of you really for bringing me into your
Well,
home.
thank
That's
you for
special
calling
to
me.
me. I'll be
Because this could have gone on a little while, and relieving my guilt because I would keep saying I gotta call.
Oh no, it's okay. No. I was
going
gonna wait.
because something always comes up.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we're off. Tonight we're meeting my friend Johnny Buzaki and his wife.
Johnny, thank you for making
John-
it later.
And Johnny is a producer
Okay.
who is doing a movie about Ferrari, the car.
Oh, is that right?
And he's got De Niro to play Ferrari.
Get
He's
outta
got
here.
Barry
Wow.
Levinson directing.
That's fantastic. Those two guys seem to be tied hit the hip
Yeah.
these days. De Niro and
Yeah.
so it's going to get on
Barry
HBO, I
Levinson.
bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good, right? With those two guys,
Yeah.
they keep doing projects for HBO.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you. You show me the book.
Okay. Thank you.